Welcome into the Inside Scoop. We are live from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm your host, Josh Newberg. Today is Sunday, July 20th, and another top three player at his position is off the board. We're going to talk all about the latest breaking news. Before we get going, guys, do me a favor, hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruits channel. We go live all the time, and the best way to find out when we're going to go live is to be notified so you get those notifications as soon as we pop on. So go ahead, hit subscribe. All right, today we got a lot to talk about. Derek Cooper off the board. He is a Longhorn, so we're going to talk some Texas recruiting, into some Notre Dame and Michigan. We got a big show. Let's get to it. We got to talk Texas recruiting because it's feeling like Christmas in July. Derek Cooper, the number 2 rated running back in America, is a Horn. We got Justin Wells from Inside Texas here. Justin, how hot is this team right now on the trail? Is this the hottest stretch of the Sarkisian era when it comes to recruiting? I mean, you've covered it all, so what do you think?
You know, it's pretty warm, pretty nice and toasty. When it reminds me of right before Christmas, and I believe it was 2022 when Texas flipped Kelvin Banks, Cam Williams, and got a couple other guys within a few days. It was pretty hot then. And if anybody that follows Texas recruiting, early December, mid-December is always pretty warm and toasty for Sark and those guys. But I can't remember. I mean, it's been one after another. I mean, Tyler Atkinson, J.J. Johnson, and now Derek Cooper. I mean, Texas is fishing in SEC country, and they're catching a lot of marlin right now.
Yeah, and this hot streak, though, comes after what we here on the Inside Scoop called a recruiting slump. So what changed? Like, they were getting beat out they lost an edge to Baylor. So what happened? I mean, how do they go from, and these are big, let's just face it, these are big money deals. Winning Derek Cooper in a Georgia-Miami battle, winning a Tyler Atkinson, flipping a James J.J. Johnson. I mean, these are big money battles. So did the faucet just turn on all of a sudden? Like, what changed?
Well, I don't think it was one thing in particular. Like I say all the time, every recruitment is different. Each one has their own story, their own path, their own way of coming to fruition. I just think there was a stretch that it seemed like for about 2 weeks where Texas was getting beat on a lot of guys. And you named it, Jamarian Carlton and Caden Finley and Jalen Lott, Chase Calicut. And Texas fans, they're used to that momentum for being in the playoffs back-to-back years. They're used to Texas signing the number 1 class for 2025. So there was a little bit of discouragement. What happens is, Texas plays the long game. I try to explain that to fans all the time. Steve Sarkisian is in for the long game. If he wanted to push earlier, I think you could probably get a couple of those guys that they missed out on June. Maybe a Zayden Crimpin, maybe a Malachi Lee, if you weren't telling them, hey, Ojo and Turntiner are our number 1 and number 2 guys. I think if you did it that way, maybe they don't hit a skid. But I will say this, especially with the Derek Cooper recruitment, I do think they had to turn the faucet on a little bit for him because there were a handful of guys that they really liked going into this cycle. And for whatever reason, different guys went different places. When Tashard Choice took the running back job for the Detroit Lions, that put a major kink in this recruiting cycle at running back. Now, Chad Scott comes in. He has to rebuild all these relationships with Javian Osborne and KJ Edwards and Xavier Crowell. The one guy that he knew before he got to Austin was Derek Cooper. And so sometimes it always does come back to relationships. But I do think they had to turn the faucet on a little bit more for Cooper. They had an idea of what they were going to give Atkinson. They had an idea what they were going to give Johnson. But I think Cooper became so much more of a priority because this class really did need a bell cow tailback. They really needed a borderline 5-star, 6'1.5", 6'2", 210-pounder out of Hollywood, Florida. Look, Derek Cooper fits a lot of what they need, especially in this conference now. It just looked bad over the last 3 weeks to get to this point. And I try to tell people with recruiting, don't get too high, don't get too low. And whenever you have doubt, trust in Sark, because when November and December come around, that's when the flips start to happen. And that's when any needs they have in any particular class, they're going to fill those pretty quickly.
Right. And this is a great class, borderline top 5 right now. But with those flips that you're talking about, a good season, a couple flips, I mean, could we be talking back-to-back number one classes for Texas?
Josh, I don't think so. I think they can have a top 5. I think they can maybe have a top 3. It's going to come down to numbers, like usual, and 5 stars. Nothing shoots up a class like a handful of 5 stars. And last year, I believe it was Justice Terry that propelled Texas to that number 1 spot. And so you just got to look at the rest of the teams right now. Is USC going to maintain that hold? That remains to be seen. Ohio State is still going to recruit at a high level. Georgia, even though they're getting beat by Texas the last few recruits, they're still recruiting at a very high level. And so I think they're going to shoot for that. They would love that number 1 spot. They really would. But I think top 3 and top 5 is more manageable because the numbers aren't going to be as high as they were last year. And like I said, those other teams right now, Alabama was up until a week ago was about as hot as anybody in the country. Ohio State, Georgia, those guys are going to recruit. They've got the opportunity to bring in a handful of more numbers. It's going to come down to that. It's going to come down to 5 stars. If Texas winds up getting in on a pair of 5 stars and they flip them, we could be looking at a number 1 class. I don't know if that's in the cards right now, but I would say top 3 at a minimum. Or top 5 at a minimum. I could see a top 3. It's just going to really break down to who gets the most 5 stars towards the end or who they flip towards the end and just numbers.
All right, let's talk about Derek Cooper, the number 1 running back from the state of Florida, number 1 in the state of Florida, number 2 overall. But Texas is no stranger in going into the state of Florida and grabbing the top running back, whether it be Cedric Baxter, Jarek Gibson. Now this cycle, it's Derek Cooper. Is this maybe a little wake-up call for Jarek Gibson, who hasn't necessarily, for various reasons, hasn't necessarily starred in the backfield yet?
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. Texas took 2 running backs each cycle the last 4 years. That stops in 2026. They're only taking 1. They really like that running back room. I believe Sark even talked about it at SEC Media Days last week in Atlanta. They love this room. There is some serious depth. Plus, there's 2 guys coming off major injuries. And so Jarek Gibson's who we call the baby rhino. And it's because he only knows one direction, and that's north. You never see him go back, sideways, lateral, anything. He's always going straight. And I think he is going to be the quintessential red zone goal line back going into this 2025 season. If you remember last year, he got some early run at the Michigan game. He had a couple key runs in helping Texas dethrone the national champion from the year before, the Michigan Wolverines up in Ann Arbor. And so I think it was a combination of Jayden Blue kind of coming into his own, and then, of course, Trey Wisner. He put himself, in that position. He was probably 5th or 6th on the depth chart going into the season. Winds up being a 1,000-yard rusher in the SEC. So Texas really likes their room right now, and they understand there's a good chance C.J. Baxter and Trey Wisner go to the NFL next April.
Right.
If that's the case, Jarek Gibson is the next man up.
Yeah.
Christian Clark is going to be the guy right behind him. They really like Ricky Stewart Jr. and James Simon, the 2 freshmen from the class of 2025. But Derek Cooper's the type of talent that could jump some of those guys. I wouldn't be surprised if to see those 2 in the Jarek Gibson and let's think of 21 personnel with Jarek Gibson and Derek Cooper on the field at the same time. Like, those are 2 big boys that can block, that can catch, and that can run between the tackles. And so they really like where they're at with Gibson. The biggest thing with Jarek was picking it, which is always the biggest thing with young running backs, is pass blocking. They all can do the same thing when it comes to run, hit the hole, do those kind of things. But can you pick up that blitz on 3rd down without getting your quarterback killed? And young running backs, often that's kind of the last thing that they get. I think that's something Jarek worked on in the spring. And again, Sark just really likes this running back room. They're only going to take 1 in this cycle with Cooper. I think that opens the door for Gibson to have a real strong opportunity, a little bit in 25, but more so in 2026.
Yeah, we're rooting for him. We're a big fan of Jarek Gibson here at the Inside Scoop. When he was in Nashville, he sat down with us at the Elite Series, and we're having a recruiting conversation. And you remember this. And I asked him who his leader was. And he paused and he goes, "You mean like my mentor?" And I was like, "No, Jarek, I mean like what's your favorite team right now?"
Jarek, listen, Jarek's got a personality that really fits the
He was
culture
awesome.
of what Texas is building right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because this is a group, you hear a lot of the culture talk out of Austin, and sometimes it just becomes a buzzword, but it's legit. Like, these guys are selfless. They really do enjoy playing for each other. In the NIL era, the brotherhood of college football is dying, but in Austin, it's thriving.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of guys like Jared Gibson. It's these out-of-state guys that Tashard Choice had identified years before. They get him on campus. And I'm telling you, Texas' one problem on offense last year was running in the red zone and on the goal line. I think Gibson with this next year could be that big back that can get those extra yards. If Texas can convert those goal line attempts in that red zone offense, this thing is going to cook, fellas.
Yeah. No, I agree. All right, so we're going to kind of put recruiting on a shelf. Of course, all Texas fans are on flip watch from now till signing day because you never know what's going to happen. But we can kind of put recruiting on the shelf right now. When's the next time? When are we going to see like Dia Bell and the whole cast of characters from the 2026 commit list on the sidelines? What's the first big game where these guys are going to be in Austin?
We're still trying to figure that out because this season they don't really have that big game until late November. They host Arkansas and they host Texas A&M, and so I think you want those
A&M
guys
game
to
sounds like a good one.
Yeah, but here's a problem with that: it's Thanksgiving, and so you've got family, you've got holidays. But I'll say this: Dia Bell's going to pop into Austin probably 3 or 4 times this year. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who they're playing. Dia comes to recruit, to hang out with Sark and the quarterbacks, and to get closer to the players. He is the consummate leader. That Texas could not ask for a better bell cow for the class of 2026. There's so much greatness about Dia. Not to mention he's right down the road from the newest commit, Derek Cooper. Give Dia a little bit of help on that recruitment as well. I think they're going to pop in at different times, but this is different. It's not like last year when Georgia came in October and that became a ginormous recruiting event. That's when Justice Terry first showed up to Austin. That's when Tyler Atkinson showed up to Austin. So even that bad loss, good things happen. And so I would look at Arkansas probably, and I would look at Texas A&M, 2 big-time rivals for the University of Texas. Those are probably going to be their 2 biggest home games for 2026. Not a lot of – now, they'll be on the road. They're going to be in some big, wonderful environments on the road at Columbus, at Athens, at Gainesville. Like, it's going to get real on the road. But at home, don't be surprised to see Dia Bell pop in from time to time. Don't be surprised to see local commits from DFW, from Houston, pop into a few games. But if they're going to do something big recruiting-wise, I'd save it for Arkansas, potentially Texas A&M.
All right, Texas fans, chime in. How we feeling? Derek Cooper, he's the latest win on the recruiting trail for Sark. Do you guys think we're talking back-to-back #1 classes? Let me know. Comment section below. Let's talk some Michigan recruiting, because when running back Derek Cooper came off the board just moments ago to Texas, it cleared the way for #1 running back in America, Savion Hyder, the last in the top 5 running backs in America to make his decision. EJ, are we any closer to knowing when Savion Hyder is going to make this decision?
Savion said he's going to announce a date soon. I would expect that to actually come soon. Savion, as anybody who follows his recruitment knows, doesn't like to talk very much, not a huge social media guy, not a big self-promoter. Very quiet kid from an extremely small town, likes to keep his recruitment very private. I would say that based on what I know about Savion, he does not want his recruitment to extend into his senior season. So I'm not going to sit here and give you an exact timeline or, say this will be the date, but I would say before his senior season is probably the most likely outcome. It's important to note that the state of Virginia first week of games is the weekend of August 29th. So I would assume it's sometime between now and then. I would be surprised, Savion being the type of kid he is. I don't expect him to take it into the fall. Like I said, I'd be very surprised if that happens. So in terms of a timeline, I would still think it comes sometime this summer.
If I was allowed to put a pick in, I would put my pick in for Michigan. I know Tennessee's heavily involved, Georgia also there, but Sabian Hyder just seems like he fits in at Michigan for various reasons. Are you confident in the Wolverines' chances here whenever this decision comes?
Yeah, nobody's stopping you from putting in a pick, Josh. I mean, you can go ahead and do it if you want.
Luke might stop me, actually.
No, nobody's going to tie you up and ban you from making a pick. But no, I mean, look, if I had to give a team an edge today, I would probably go with Michigan. It's been the constant in his recruiting. I think that the Wolverines have checked all the boxes for Savion in terms of on the field, off the field. He cold fit at Michigan. When you think about Michigan, you think about that blue collar, hardworking mentality, not a lot of flash, but a ton of grit. And that's what Savion Hyder brings to the table. He's a prospect who, again, works in darkness. He's a kid who is the number one running back for a reason, but you wouldn't expect it maybe from his social media following. But yeah, I think he likes what Michigan has to offer from a culture perspective. And even though NIL is going to be a factor for any five-star recruit, I think relationships still matter in recruiting, especially if NIL is close. And I think Tony Alford has done a fantastic job of recruiting Savion, his family, those around this recruitment. Alford has been recruiting Savion for years now, dating back to his time at Ohio State. So, yeah, I mean, there isn't really anything else Michigan can do right now. It's kind of wait and see as Savion continues to have discussions with his family and those close to him. I think it's still a really tight battle with Tennessee. I could see it going Tennessee's way, but like I said, if you were to ask me to put in a pick today, if I had to do it, I'd probably go with Michigan.
Yeah. Michigan would be my pick if I were to put a pick in, which I'm not, but if I did.
Just to make it clear.
All right. So recruiting kind of slowing down, just not in Michigan world, all over the place. It's slowing down a little bit as these commitments come off the board. We get closer to the season, but there's a couple big ones to go. Davon Benjamin, one of the top defensive backs in America, will make that decision on August 2nd. Do we like Michigan here?
I think Michigan, if you were to ask me which team has improved its stock the most with Davon Benjamin, it would be Michigan. I think they've made it a lot more interesting than maybe some folks would have thought going into the summer. Oregon has been considered the leader in this recruitment for some time. They hold the edge on the RPM. I've been communicating with our Oregon insider, Justin Hopkins, who does a great job of covering the Ducks. And I think the general feeling around Eugene is still that they have the inside track with Benjamin. I still think that's the case. We are about, less than 2 weeks now, about 2 weeks from a decision. I think business discussions are ongoing. Michigan is willing to invest in one elite corner this cycle. I think Benjamin right now is the most realistic of the targets that are in that kind of, top 50 range, which for us, he's the number one corner in the country. I think that, like I said, Michigan's had success at the corner position, not just from a development standpoint, but from an NIL standpoint. Last year, late in the cycle, they flipped Shamari Earls away from Georgia. They put together a really strong package in his favor. They were able to win out. I think, NIL is obviously going to be a factor in this recruitment as well. And like I said, Michigan has the resources. They're willing to invest here. I think the relationships might be a little stronger with Oregon. The familiarity might be a little bit more there. But one thing Michigan can offer, and I'm not exactly sure what Oregon's depth chart is, but Michigan has a need for corner outside of getting Shamari Earls, who will be a stud in Ann Arbor. They need more depth there. They need another guy for the future, which is why they're willing to spend. And I know opportunity is certainly an appealing selling point when it comes to Michigan and Benjamin.
So also on August 2nd, Davon Benjamin's not the only decision. Linebacker Anthony Davis is set to decide. Ole Miss doing well in this recruitment as well. But how does Linebacker Anthony Davis, also DQ Forkpa is still out there. Are these linebackers intertwined at all with their decisions?
Not really. Forkpa is going to take his decision into the fall. I think Michigan would make room for both linebackers, a big need this cycle, but you'll have the Davis decision before you have the Forkpa decision, and then they'll be able to make a move from there if they are fortunate enough to land Davis. Now, Davis, the recruitment shares some similarities with Benjamin in the sense that, same thing, if you were to ask me which team has improved its stock the most recently, it's Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a team right now, again, a couple weeks to go before the decision, that probably has the slight edge, and that's Ole Miss, which again has been a constant in his recruitment. The relationships are there, etc. But kind of the same thing as Benjamin. They've improved their stock. I think that Michigan might not value the linebacker position as much as maybe some other blue blood programs from an NIL perspective, but they are willing to negotiate and spend some there. I think they would put together a competitive package for Anthony Davis as well as DQ Forkpa in the fall if they miss out on Davis.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's still a little bit of work to do. Can Michigan pull it out? Definitely. Will they put it out? I'm not close to putting in a pick. Like I said, I'd still give Ole Miss the slight edge, but Michigan just has a good track record for being able to come from behind and win recruitment. So it's very possible they can win one of Benjamin or Davis on August 2nd. And Forkpa is a very realistic option in the fall as well. They have a strong working relationship with his agent, Cliff Hill, who also represented Nathaniel Lusu Boateng, who was a 4-star linebacker last cycle who committed to Michigan on National Signing Day. So I think that relationship certainly helps there as well.
All right. So we know Texas is eyeing Michigan offensive tackle recruit Malachi Lee. They're going to try to flip him. We talked to Justin Wells on this channel about him a lot. But I wanted to ask you, who would Michigan like a second shot at? Meaning, who are some guys that they're going to eye down when the season rolls around to flip?
Just quick note, I know Justin probably soothed your ears with his little Texas twang, but Michigan is going to do whatever it takes to keep Malachi Lee in the class.
Hey, they already beat Texas on him once. I mean, hey.
Hey, exactly. In terms of who they would like to flip, right now there are no true flip targets out there in terms of, guys that I feel like, hey, there's some legitimate legs to this. Yeah. They just flipped Jordan Deck away from Baylor. But if Michigan misses out on Benjamin on August 2nd, I think they'll continue to stay in contact with him. But the guy I would really keep an eye on, and I know he's kind of publicly shut it down, and that's all good and well, but I think Michigan will really give it a go for Kari Adams. He's a top 100 cornerback committed to Notre Dame. Like I said, Michigan is willing to invest a lot in an elite corner this cycle. Kari Adams makes a ton of sense. Michigan secondary coach Lamar Morgan has a great relationship with him, visited him in the DMV quite a bit this offseason. Michigan's had success in the DMV. They pulled 5-star Carter Meadows out of there this cycle. They've had big wins in the DMV in the past. A little further south, like I said earlier, they landed Shamari Earls, who Kari Adams actually knows from track. So, yeah, I think Kari Adams makes a lot of sense. He was one that Michigan, again, gained a lot of steam with, and then they fell just short when it came, like they just ran out of time to win that recruitment. I think that it's still a long way to go until signing day, right? You ran out of time maybe now, but there's still time left on the clock. You just have to work it the right way. We've seen it before.
All right. Michigan sitting at number 10. I noticed that Notre Dame currently sitting at 3. Both are recruiting really well this offseason. So since I got you here, the last thing I want to ask you, just in your professional opinion, do you think Michigan or Notre Dame finishes higher in the recruiting rankings when it's all said and done?
Well, I don't want to sound too churlish, but I do think that Notre Dame always loads up early and then they lose recruits. It's kind of a tradition for the Irish to load up, rise in the rankings, cheer their offseason. They go into the season, they win nothing of consequence. They haven't won a national championship since I really don't know when. maybe since my great-great-grandfather was alive. So I think Michigan has a lot of great selling points. They, like I said, always have a reputation for getting hot later. Even going into this summer, a lot of complaints about Michigan, a lot of complaints about their NIL strategy, and boom, they're in the top 10 right away, right off the summer. So I think the fall could open some things up for Michigan to maybe add a few more of those key pieces that could help them rise in the rankings. While Notre Dame, their commits are going to be on flip watch. You talked about Malachi Lee, and I think right now he sticks with Michigan. But when you look at this class, you're not really looking at any guys that are wavering or have wavered. I think everybody's pretty solid and bought in. Whereas Notre Dame, I always think, some of those guys just have a wandering eye. Like I said, they load up early. They like to put on the pressure to commit early. Then they lose them. So give me Michigan.
I just wanted your opinion on it. No big deal. All right, Michigan fans, you let me know, where do you think the Wolverines are going to finish? It feels like the summer is going to finish out strong for Michigan. So let's talk a little recruiting in the comment section. Let's talk some Notre Dame momentum here with Mike Singer of Blue and Gold. Mike, we're not talking the 2026 class. We are jumping ahead to 2027 because it seems like there is a landslide of predictions coming in for Teddy Gerard, the number 12 ranked quarterback in the country out of Kennesaw, Georgia, much higher for rivals, number 2 overall at the position. What's going on with Teddy Gerard? He's going to make his decision on Thursday. One, how big of a priority has he been for Notre Dame, and who's the competition here?
Yeah, let's start with the second question. The competition looking to be Notre Dame, Michigan, Penn State, Georgia, and Ohio State. Buckeyes already have a 27 quarterback, but they've offered Gerard, of course, the in-state school, the Bulldogs after this elite passer, and then those 3, Midwest powers with Penn State, Michigan, and Notre Dame all after him. So Notre Dame went, I want to say they were the longest, the school that took the longest to offer a quarterback in the 2027 class in the country. Like Clemson came off the board in like May and was like, all right, Notre Dame, when are you going to do that? Or it was early June, and then Notre Dame offered 2. It was Peyton Houston and Teddy Gerard the night of June 21st, and then both quarterbacks announcing it the next morning. And, it was like, all right, is Notre Dame going to get either of these kids? Like Peyton Houston seems to be trending to USC, and then Teddy Gerard, this elite quarterback from Georgia with offers from everybody. You can be able to land him. But Notre Dame has done a really good job with Gerard. From what I know about the young man and what I know about quarterbacks coach Gino Guidugli, they seem like the same person. Like they just are very similar, wired very similarly. So I think that relationship is huge for Notre Dame, and that's a big reason why my prediction is on the Irish heading into that announcement.
All right. Well, it's going to be 1 p.m. on Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. Notre Dame fans, make sure you guys are locked in right now, because the best way to get notified when we go live is to be a subscriber. You never know when we'll be live, but you will get notified when we go live if you are subscribed. All right. He goes 6'3", 200 pounds. Why does he fit what Notre Dame's looking for at the quarterback position?
Notre Dame really valued a good athlete in this class at the quarterback position, and Gerard really does it all. I mean, he can dice you up from the pocket, but then getting outside it, he's not like an absolute burner. He's not Lamar Jackson back there, but he's got this just natural backyard football instinct when he gets outside the pocket. I think Teddy Gerard would be an excellent fit with what Mike Denbrock likes to do. I mean, you've looked at him in years past. I think most famously recently was Jaden Daniels at LSU, and Denbrock just like from that season when Notre Dame's recruiting quarterbacks, these prospects talk about that year a lot. I mean, it was an absolutely electric year for the Heisman winner. So I think that Gerard is a perfect fit for what Notre Dame not only does offensively, using the quarterbacks in the run game and wanting them to extend plays and everything. But yeah, just what he can do throwing the football. There's a reason he's the number 2 quarterback in the country per Rivals.
All right, Notre Dame fans, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you guys are tuned in. Could be a big afternoon for the Irish. Let's flash forward to the 2026 class. Not many targets left on the board here, but defensive lineman Elijah Golden has been a top target for many months now, and he decided to push back his decision. You posted it on your message board, and I'm reading through 3 or 4 pages. Fans, they're kind of melting down over this decision to move it back. How do you interpret this for Notre Dame recruiting?
Yeah, I wouldn't go in full meltdown mode. I'd say that Notre Dame has been in spots a lot worse than this, and they've come out on the correct side, or the winning side, I should say, of the recruitment. I do think that there's reason for concern. Like I was under the expectation that he would commit to Notre Dame on July 26th, but then you push it back. So if you're the leading school and a kid pushes it back, and it's not just like, oh, hey, my aunt couldn't be there. If it's something like that, it's like, oh, we had to move locations. But my understanding is that a big part of why he's pushing it back is he needs more time. And Oklahoma has really surged. It's felt like a Notre Dame-Bama battle for the longest time. Hearing good things about where Oklahoma stands, or bad things where the Irish stand based on Oklahoma surging. But look, we still got weeks away till August 9th. I think that Notre Dame can definitely make up any ground that they may have lost. So a quick recap: Oklahoma has surged. Bama is still in contact. I'm sure Virginia Tech is still in contact. That's his home state school. And Notre Dame is just going to keep battling until, August 9th, right before he announces. Like, if that's what it takes. Like, he's a key target. His last name's Golden, for crying out loud. I mean, we're talking about Notre Dame. So, yeah, I wouldn't push the panic button if I'm a Notre Dame fan. But, yeah, Oklahoma has definitely made a move.
All right, so 2026 recruiting is it's one of the best classes in the country right now. We talk about it all the time on this channel. But 2027 could really get going with a big-time quarterback commitment. I mean, he's ranked number 2 for Rivals. Charles Power has him ranked higher than anybody else in the industry. I believe ESPN has him at number 3. He's 12 in the Rivals industry, the composite rankings. But, I mean, number 2, if he finishes there, that's likely a 5-star quarterback for Notre Dame. So is 2027 recruiting about to take off right now?
I think so. And Josh, if you would have sat down with me 6 months ago and you said, hey, Mike, Notre Dame's first 4 commits could look like this: a long snapper, a linebacker from Mobile, an elite quarterback from the Atlanta area, and then a defensive lineman from Hattiesburg, I would have said, you're crazy. There's no way. But here we are. Notre Dame's got the long snapper and the Mobile linebacker committed. Gerard looks to be trending towards the Irish. Notre Dame's the favorite there. And then my colleague Kyle Kelly of Blue and Gold predicted Devin Robinson, the defensive lineman from Hattiesburg, to end up at Notre Dame. So you never know with recruiting, Josh. I mean, but yeah, that could be Notre Dame's first 4. No guarantees at all. But yeah, I mean, Notre Dame's 26 class took a little while to kick into gear with a lot of commitments, a little later than some Notre Dame fans expected, and they were a little nervous. That momentum kicked into a gear. So whether it's this summer, whether it's in the fall or in the spring when this class gets rolling, with Marcus Freeman at the helm and this recruiting office and the staff, I feel pretty good about where recruiting's going to go.
It's what consistent winning will do. I mean, Notre Dame always recruits nationally, so it's no surprise that you're mentioning national names. But the caliber of early national names that what we're hearing when it comes to Notre Dame is only a result of winning on the field. So things seem like they're about to take off. Notre Dame fans, talk to Mike and I. How are we feeling about the quarterback position right now? Notre Dame recruiting out of their minds. Teddy Gerard scheduled to come off the board later this week. Talk to us. Let us know. Do you think they land him?